Have you ever wondered how a warship larger than any U.S. aircraft carrier could be sunk like a sitting duck in its own port by an adversary, and why it couldn't even escape? On March the 2nd, massive black smoke billowed over the southern Iranian port of Bandar Abbas. Commercial satellite imagery clearly showed Iran's largest naval vessel, the Majlis-e-Mokbar floating base ship, engulfed in flames after being struck in port, ultimately sinking beneath the waves. Simultaneously, the U.S. military announced that another 40,000-ton vessel, the Shahid Bagheri drone carrier, had also been sunk during this Epic Fury airstrike campaign. The U.S. Central Command stated bluntly that its objective was to destroy the Iranian Navy. Within days, it claimed to have neutralized 11 of Iran's main vessels in the Gulf of Oman. For the Iranian Navy, this was no small loss. They had few large vessels to begin with. The Mokran itself was no ordinary vessel. Originally an ultra-large oil tanker, Iran purchased and converted it into a floating forward operating base. Its full load displacement exceeded 120,000 tons. To put that in perspective, the largest U.S. aircraft carrier, the USS Ford, displaces around 110,000 tons, making the converted ship over 10,000 tons heavier. Over 200 meters long, its deck can be cleared and leveled to accommodate helicopter operations, drone control, and small boat launches. Its role isn't to engage in direct combat, but to provide the Navy with a long-term operational foothold in distant waters. Since Iran lacks overseas military bases, such a vessel allows it to push logistical support forward, enabling missile boats or drones to carry out missions in the Indian Ocean and beyond. A couple of years ago, this vessel undertook a long-range voyage, departing Iran, traversing the Indian Ocean, rounding the Cape of Good Hope, and sailing all the way to the Atlantic. It approached waters near Venezuela, completing the round trip in over 100 days, setting the Iranian Navy's record for the longest voyage. The Shahid Bagheri followed a similar path, converted from a container ship with a ski jump deck added, giving it the appearance of a capable carrier for drones and helicopters. Just over a month ago, in January, the Mokran docked alongside China's Type 052D destroyer Tangshan at Cape Town, South Africa, preparing for the BRICS naval exercises. The sight of a 120,000-ton behemoth alongside a modern destroyer was certainly eye-catching. However, due to certain pressures, Iranian vessels merely observed the exercises without actively participating. Little did anyone anticipate that less than 2 months later, this massive ship would sink in its own port. Some might wonder, knowing full well that the US and Israel could strike at any moment, why didn't Iran move these large vessels out of the harbor to avoid danger? Why did they have to stay anchored there, lined up for the enemy to strike? The reasons are actually quite complex. Ultimately, it wasn't that they didn't want to flee, it was that they genuinely couldn't escape. According to post-incident reports, it wasn't until just hours before the US military launched its attack that the Iranian Navy began dispersing some vessels outward, but it was already too late. Satellite imagery revealed that as recently as February the 27th, several Iranian mainstay frigates, including the Jamaran, Sahand, and Mokran, were still docked in Bandar Abbas, lined up within the harbor. Such conspicuous targets were under constant surveillance by satellites and drones. Departing the harbor would have made them easier to lock onto in the open sea. First, once air superiority is lost, surface vessels face immense challenges at sea. Over the past year, Iran's air defense network surrounding its borders has been significantly suppressed. Before this operation began, some Iranian Air Force aircraft were destroyed on the ground before they could even take off. Without air cover, the skies outside the port were swarming with enemy fighter jets and drones. In such circumstances, no matter how large the Mokran's displacement, it remained merely a converted tanker, equipped with little in the way of proper radar or air defense missiles. If it ventured into the open sea, that vast expanse offered nowhere to hide, making it an even easier target to lock onto, a floating sitting duck. Should it be sunk, the loss of crew would likely be even greater. Moreover, to be honest, Iranian frigates like the Jamaran class only displace around 1,500 tons and have inherently weak air defense capabilities. Relying on them to shield a 120,000-ton mothership from missiles is simply impossible. Second, the inherent defensive capabilities of these converted vessels are simply too weak. While their decks can accommodate helicopters and carry drones, these assets offer no protection against precision-guided bombs raining down from the sky during combat. The small destroyers assigned to escort duties within Iran's navy also possess limited air defense capabilities. Therefore, while anchored in port, they may be sitting ducks, but at least they can rely on some shore-based air defense fire for minimal cover. Personnel can be evacuated promptly, minimizing casualties. If the damage isn't too severe, There might even be a chance to salvage and repair them after the conflict. Take the destroyer Dumavand, for instance. It sank after running aground on a breakwater during a storm while in port. This incident underscores that even when not at sea, these vessels aren't necessarily safe in harbor. This round of strikes has dealt a significant blow to the Iranian Navy. The sinking of the Mokran is more than just the loss of a single vessel. It represents a path Iran has pursued for years, the militarization of civilian vessels. This approach achieves significant results at low cost, creating platforms with ocean-going capabilities at relatively minimal expense. Now, the crowning achievement of this strategy lies sunk in the Strait of Hormuz, effectively dismantling the fruits of this approach. Among the remaining mainstay frigates, including those at Chabahar port, an Alvin-class frigate was severely damaged by explosions, billowing thick smoke. The figures released by U.S. Central Command are even more alarming. Just 2 days ago, Iran had 11 vessels in the Gulf of Oman, and now not a single one remains. It can be said that Iran's regular surface naval forces suffered heavy losses in this airstrike, and will find it difficult to mount any meaningful ocean-going operations in the near future. That said, Iran still holds some cards. Its naval strength has never relied solely on large vessels. What truly troubles adversaries are the swarm of coastal fast attack craft, mines, and anti-ship missiles. While its surface fleet has been largely neutralized, Iran's submarine force remains largely intact. It still possesses 3 Russian-made Kilo-class submarines, over 20 Ghadir-class mini-submarines, and several other pocket submarines, totaling nearly 30 vessels. These compact submarines are difficult to detect underwater, and are ideally suited for ambushes in the narrow, shallow waters of the Strait of Hormuz. Moreover, Iran holds a formidable weapon, mines. It is said to have stockpiled 6,000 mines of various types, floating, bottom-laying, and even those with smart fuses capable of target recognition. Should Iran resolve to blockade the strait, scattering these mines across the main shipping lanes would create significant problems. Moving forward, if the Iranian Navy aims to continue engaging adversaries at sea, it may have to revert to asymmetric tactics, small, fast boats, mines, and shore-based anti-ship missiles and hypersonic missiles. The few submarines remaining, along with smaller vessels ranging from 100 to several hundred tons, could still pose a significant threat in the shallow waters of the Persian Gulf through ambushes and mine-laying operations. However, attempting to genuinely blockade the Strait of Hormuz with these assets and confront the U.S. military, which holds absolute air superiority, remains exceedingly difficult. The sinking of the 120,000-ton Mokran in Bandar Abbas serves as a symbol, marking the temporary failure of Iran's recent ambitions to challenge adversaries in the open seas. The struggle for control over the Strait of Hormuz between the United States and Iran is certain to persist for a long time. What asymmetric tactics Iran will deploy, and how the U.S. military will counter those mines and small submarines, are key questions to watch in the coming days.